It's not 3 pages, is it?
It is 3 pages.
All right, back that up for a second. I have a shorter version. We've used elsewhere. Just that my computer absolutely hates Zoom. So hold on. I have to find it now. Ay, ay, ay. Being incredibly slow. I wish he'd given up on that part of it. Garage, script, got it. All right, can everybody hear me? Because I have to be on a different screen to read this.
We can hear
Yes,
you.
we can hear you.
Okay, new public participation guidelines are not so new. Members of the public wishing to participate in the meeting must use the full name for Zoom access. Full names are not used. People will not be allowed to participate. Town reserve the right to remove any member of the public from meeting who doesn't use a full name or acts inappropriately. Confirming member access. As a preliminary matter, this is identify meeting. Oh, Linda Williams, Chair, Madaket Advisory. Confirm that all members and persons anticipated in the agenda are present can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Tom Erickson.
Here.
Bruce Mandel.
Here,
Myself, Linda Williams is here. Staff is Esmeralda, you're here.
Present.
And anticipated speaker, Toby, you're here.
Present.
Okay. Morning, open meeting of the Madaket Advisory is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's orders and his extension to end of March 2023 due to the current state of emergency, which it doesn't exist, but he extended it and they're trying to codify it to allow it permanently due to COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19 virus, have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, which isn't true. We got to get a new script, Esmeralda, based on the governor's order. It wasn't due to any of this stuff. Now it's changed.
Okay.
Since the governor's order suspends the requirement of open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. For their own meeting, public are allowed to encourage participate remotely, order which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting. Most public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded. The public can follow along the deliberation of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation required by law. This meeting will feature public comment from the representative of the project. So this meeting of the MAB is convening by video conference. Bringing Zoom is posted on the town's website identifying how the public may join for Zoom meeting. The meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials have been provided. Members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I, the chair, note otherwise. Meeting business ground rules. We're now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude the remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each to name, provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair gives the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. After members have spoken, chair will afford public comment. They have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and acknowledge, speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in the meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Okie dokie. Let me go back to Zoom page. That's about as fast as I can read that thing. Okay. So, Esmeralda, do you want to put the agenda back up? Hold on. Every time anything changes on the screen, I lose the screen. Okay, we only have one project with two components up today. So we'll call to order members present. Bruce,
Here.
Tom,
Here.
myself are here. Audio recording, we are recording now. Bruce, you want to make a motion on the agenda?
I move to accept the agenda.
Okay, and Tom, you second.
Second.
All those in favor, Bruce,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
and myself. Okey dokey. And we actually opened the meeting at probably 10:10. Okey dokey. So these are the minutes from back in June from the HDC itself, it looks like. And I can't read them, Esmeralda, unless you move them further to the left, because my pictures are on the right and I don't know how to change that. Okay. Does not meet guideline inappropriate, out of character, ground array is more appropriate. Proposed we have rules for solar panel back, black, not facing the street. Also, you'd like to view this, thanks to the cardinal points are incorrect. This might be visible from E Street, F Street. Huh? She wants to view as well. Okay, so they put it off to view, which is how, and the other one's tracking, which is how we got it back. Okay. All right. So Toby, do you want to make a presentation on this? Because you were there at that other meeting.
Yeah, I can be, I guess, brief. The application kind of speaks for itself. We're looking to do solar at the very end of 9 East Street. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the location. We've also done solar at 11 East Street on the wood roof. So what we're looking to do is put some solar panels up on these two structures as a main house and a cottage. They're both smaller structures in comparison to a lot of other, large buildings in the area. It is a gray roof. We're happy to paint the roof black if you guys would like us to do that. And we're just looking for your approval today. It's a pretty nice design. The panels are, on the main house kind of blend in better. In the cottage, they're a little more up front, but all the panels are on one plane. There's no jagged edges, very consistent to the HDC's guidelines for installing solar. Yeah, that bird's eye shows them both nicely. And yeah, I'm here to answer any questions anyone might have and move the project forward.
And this is the main house, Toby, not the cottage?
No, that's correct. That's the main house.
Okay.
So the
It's
main
still
house is further back, correct?
Right.
Closer to the water.
Okay, but it doesn't face the creeks.
No, this does not face the creeks.
Okay, Bruce, do you want to go first? Do you have questions for Toby?
I don't have any questions for Toby, but I have some comments. Number one, we don't know whether the HDC made its viewing of the site. So I don't know whether this is appropriate to discuss at this time.
Oh, we don't, what we say is, has nothing to do with what they're doing. So we're on our own here.
Thank you. Let me continue speaking, please. The photos provided are a little bit, I won't say deceptive, but they don't represent what's actually there. Particularly photo number, let me see. Photo number here.
You want to go down to the photos, Esmeralda?
Photo number 3 is a photo supposedly taken at the end of E Street. And it's basically saying this main house is not visible. In reality, the photo is number one, not taken at the end of East Street. It's taken where the foliage is rather close to the street, probably about 80 to 100 feet away from the end of East Street. And this is what the view is.
Oh, Nat, no, let's go down to the picture that's been submitted. Where are we? You said number 3.
Yes, number 3.
Oh, there it is.
So at the end of this Shell Road, where you see it looks like a little turnaround there, that's the end of East Street. And when you go to that place, if you move the little hand up about 1/4 of an inch, can you do that? I guess you can't hear me. But if you go to where the end of the median, that's it. Oh, go back. Thank you. At the end of where the center grass is, if you stand just there, this is the view of the main house. And the planes where, the roof planes where the solar is going are clearly visible. And let's keep that in mind because there are, where are my notes? Here they are. There are still no indications as to where the supplemental equipment for either building is going. There's ample space on the ground at this property to install these as ground arrays. You know, we're not opposed to solar at all. But
Now, wait a minute, hold it. You can't represent anybody but your own opinions. Do not say we as if you're talking
Okay,
for
fine,
Madaket,
Linda.
whatever.
Get the point.
Just say yourself.
Any other comments?
Hold on.
I agree. This is Tom. I agree with Bruce.
I need to just continue.
Okay,
Okay,
hold on, Tom. I'm taking minutes by hand here.
thank you. Tobias mentioned an interesting comment that I've heard many times before, that this is consistent with the HDC guidelines for installing solar, and obviously it is not. The HDC's guiding documents, building with Nantucket in mind, and the subsequent addendum that specifically addresses the placement of solar on pages 15 through 14 through 16 state that the preferred installation is ground array. And there is sufficient room on this property.
Where?
Right here.
What is that? What is that a picture of, Bruce?
It's a picture of the property.
Standing on the property?
I am on the Shell driveway. Let's see,
Of the property? Yes.
on the, do you see the picture on the right where there's an arrow number 3?
Yep.
I'm approximately, stop. Okay. All right, we've moved that around a little bit. Okay, I'm approximately 10 feet to the right of where that arrow is.
Which arrow? What arrow? Oh, on the picture.
Arrow
big
number 3.
You're
On
standing
the-
to the right of that picture where that little 3 arrow is? That's on their private property. The only way for you to take a picture of the right side of that cottage is to be on their property. You cannot do that.
Linda, I was standing on that Shell roadway. There's no property bound there. I stood there and took this picture.
Show your picture again. Where's your
Needless to say.
I can't do that, Bruce. I cannot do that.
Linda, stop interrupting me. You'll have your opportunity to speak.
No, I'm just saying where the picture was taken from, Bruce. That's your picture.
Yes, it is. I took it this morning.
Can you show it again, please?
I just showed you where it was taken from.
That is on the property, Bruce.
I am not on their property.
Okay, have it your way, but that's on the property.
Needless to say, there is sufficient ground space to install the entire set of arrays. And that's what the town's guidelines currently say it should be done. Secondly, there's a statement made that it is not visible from F Street. This is a photo taken this morning from F Street. And the main house and its roof planes are clearly visible.
Which one is F Street here on this thing?
It's to the right of where the arrow is. You see the bright white circular driveway?
Yeah,
If you go to stop right there, that's where this picture was taken from. And the picture that you see in the submission, which is marked number 7.
is that below this
Sorry,
group
correction, number 6.
and the next page?
I believe so. Go to photo number 6. Okay, stop. You see
Yeah.
photo number 6? It's conveniently taken at an angle where there's a tree blocking the view. However, if you go to the left of that white driveway and you're standing on F Street at that location, this is the view of the main house.
With a telephoto lens, Bruce?
No, it's from my phone.
With an enlarged picture. We cannot do that either.
It's
Okay.
not a large picture. This is from a picture that I took. And the point is, it's clearly visible.
All right, Bruce, let me stop you there for a second. We're not allowed, nor is the HCC allowed to use a Zoom on our phones, on our cameras, because I don't do that either. I want to do it, but I don't do it. You're not allowed to use a Zoom. It has to be the naked eye. That's the problem.
That picture is not using a zoom. I can send it to you. Nevertheless, it's visible. And the point is, the picture number 6 is a bit disingenuous and deceptive. If the picture had been taken slightly to the left, you would see the main house, with or without a zoom. In accordance with the town's guidelines, it's a little bit out of scale with the roof line. I don't see a balance, a scale, a proportion with either features of the elevation. Addressing comments of the HDC's minutes, the compass rose is not incorrect. The drawing presented with the compass rose is correct.
Wait a minute.
As mentioned,
Wasn't the south, are you saying that the south is north, north is south, or that they are correct?
I'm saying the compass rose on the drawings is correct. There was a comment made at the HDC that
They were
Mr. Walsh thinks the cardinal points are incorrect. Well, the drawings produced by Act Smart, the compass road is very fairly accurate. The town guidelines say that basically you're not supposed to have a black set of panels on a gray roof. Tobias's observation that he could paint the roof is interesting, but obviously painting asphalt shingles is not going to work, nor will it work for very long if it's done. So
Just for the record,
Hold on, Toby. You'll get a response at the end.
sorry.
and I recognize the fact that we have let solar panels run amok in certain places in Madaket while not adhering to the town guidelines through a misguided review process. But the intent is to put a stop to the destruction of the cottage feel, especially of that area of Madaket, which is the old area of Madaket, when those solar arrays could easily be ground mounted in accordance with the current town guidelines. So I don't see where anything has changed since the last time we reviewed it. There's no indication, maybe Esme could tell us, as to whether the HDC actually went and looked at it. My indication from my experience is they have not looked at it yet, but I would like to get that confirmed. And if they have not looked at it yet, my recommendation would be that we not change our prior recommendation and that the HDC's review of this item be put off until the commissioners have a chance to do what they said they wanted to do, was to go look at it.
They don't, just for edification, the members don't tell Esmeralda whether they viewed it or not. And generally speaking, at the meetings, they don't like it when we ask them if they've actually had a chance to view. So while we can put that in our recommendation, we cannot require it, nor can we ask them.
I wasn't asking or requiring them to view it. I was simply commenting on their
Good.
comments. Now, if they don't like people to comment on their comments, they can make that known when we review these at the main HDC meeting that eventually or soon we'll be reviewing or re-reviewing this document, but nothing's been done since we last reviewed this to change the prior recommendations. It's out of character for the neighborhood. It's visible. There's enough property ground area for the installation to be ground mounted, which is the preferred method according to town guidance. And I can read what that guidance is into the minutes if you like, Madam Chairman.
Not necessary. They're under review anyway to be modified.
There's no indication where any of the associated equipment is to be installed and whether it's going to be enclosed. And if these were a ground mounted array, no screening would be required because the area, open area on that site is well screened from public view. Those are my comments.
Tom,
Yes, I agree with what Bruce is stating. If there's enough room on the ground on the southern view, and if it's blocked by bushes, that would be the primary location.
okay. Needless to say, I am absolutely opposed to that, everything that was said. When you have very large lots, and as I said, I've got some clients that did them, I guess, back at the beginning of all this, some time ago, where I've actually seen them. And they are horrible. They also take up whatever green space is left. And these are very two large lots. It takes up whatever green space is out there unnecessarily. Frankly, I would rather never see an array on the ground again after looking at the few that I have seen, because they're terrible. And I've asked around and other people who have seen them, especially those in those same neighborhoods, and they are ugly. They're terrible. They take up space. Hold on.
You must be against swimming pools too.
I'm not necessarily loving those, but the island was full of windmills in the past, but some of these designs are just crazy.
What do windmills have to do with?
I need to finish my own comments, Bruce. You were allowed to. Can I finish my comments? I am not in favor of a ground array, generally speaking. I've seen them, as I've already said, and I'm certainly not in favor of a ground array here because they, A, have to be outside the setback, and putting them outside the setback in this fairly narrow, very long lot with very little upland to build on is going to make them visible, because otherwise you got to get rid of the driveway. So they're going to be on a very small amount of actually upland green space on this lot. I knew that your argument was coming, so I looked at it. I don't agree with it here because it's going to be completely visible because of the setbacks. If they're going to put that size, because you're talking about both structures, which is a fairly sizable ground array on a very small, limited lot, fully visible from the driveway, completely. And because most of this lot was within 100 feet, inside 100 feet of the top of that bank, of the wetlands, gonna have to go to Concom and they're gonna tell you to pound sand on putting it on the ground. So the only thing to do to get solar on this property, gray, black roof, this painting of the black roof has come up a couple times at the HDC. I am not a fan of that. As you said, it's stupid. It's gonna look terrible when it starts to wear off. And replacing two newer roofs, which they look like in the pictures, is ludicrous. And the house next door, we battled over that for quite some time. The one to the left, I believe, or west of this, has solar panels. There's one up towards the street, has solar panels. And there one is on a wood roof, which I've seen. I remember being at the HCC meetings when they were battling over that. And the reason why I don't really care about this one, because it's not facing the creeks, so it doesn't change the real view that everybody can see going up and down the creeks. What it does also, it's on this structure anyway, it's on a 4-pitch roof. It is not on the main roof from what I can tell from the drawings. It is on somewhat of a pitched, a much lower pitch, at least the dormer is a 4-pitch. The roof below it looks like it's at least lower than a 7, and they're on lower roof planes. And they go end to end, which they prefer, on a single roof plane. So it is not on the main roof. So I will put these comments in about the concerns haven't changed and you prefer the ground array. I'm not going to use the word we, because you cannot represent Madaket, their Madaket Conservation Group that are looking at your area plan. You can't do that here. I've already said that at the HCC meeting, that's what your group was looking towards as you're reviewing your regulations out there from that area plan. That's as far as we're going. We're not doing that at this meeting because we can't represent we at this meeting. So I'm having a real problem, Bruce, also that you have potentially taken those pictures and submitted them as far as going on the property. Bounds over there are kind of catch as catch can. So I'm concerned about that as part of the presentation. We're not here to do that. Nor can the HDC go on people's personal property. Nor can we use telephoto lenses or close-up lenses and stuff like that. I use them when I represent at the HDC just to show them what plane it's going on, but they have no jurisdiction over that. And I don't believe you can see a lower pitched roof from the side from 150 feet, 200 feet away from F Street. So I'm having difficulty with that picture. But either way, we're not here to do that. You have expressed your concerns and I will put your concerns on there. Toby, do you have anything to add here?
Linda, I wanted to ask a question. of you.
You wanted to what?
I wanted to ask you a question about a comment you made.
Yep,
You mentioned that you had asked around the neighborhood.
not this neighborhood, the other neighborhoods where they're on the ground arrays.
You said that you asked around that neighborhood.
I did not. I said the ground arrays,
Okay, I guess I wrote.
and they don't like them because they are ugly and they fill up every green space on the lot. And that's not what we're here to do either. Preserving
Okay.
green space to me on the creeks is really kind of critical to me. There's so
Right,
little of
right.
it in the old Madaket.
I guess I wrote your comment down incorrectly.
Yes,
My
you did.
apologies If I did.
There's no ground array here for me to ask anybody about. Logically. So Toby, did you want to have a comment on this structure?
Didn't we approve a ground array on the circular driveway in the front of the house a few years ago? Didn't we approve that
Which one?
by the circular driveway? The house in the front, I thought a few years, 1 or 2 years ago, I thought we approved a ground array on that on the right on F Street.
On F Street for that one that has the big round driveway?
Yes,
I don't know. I don't remember that at all. And where are they going to put it where you're not going to see it from someplace?
That's Bill Greeter's property.
Yeah, no, I don't believe so, but I can always look it up. Do you know what that address is on F?
It used to be the Jetty House.
I believe it's 4F Street.
It would be way down at the end. I'll see if I can figure it out from their file.
It could be 10F Street, I don't remember.
Either way, that lot is 4 times the size of this lot. So, Toby, one more time. Do you have anything to add on this particular subject, on this house?
No, I do not. I think solar is very important for this community to have a sustainable and healthy energy to facilitate these lovely Zoom meetings we have. And so I appreciate the board's comments, and I hope you can see our detailed application and how we've put in, I think, appropriate mitigation. And the array is very much aligned with the roof planes of the building. And as you can see directly next door, we have solar adjacent to this lot. That is slightly visible, just like this lot. I'm not denying that there's no visibility. And I think solar panels are appropriate. I think Nantucketers 200 years ago, if they didn't have to sail all the way to the Pacific and they could have put solar panels on their houses, they would have done it. And that's a frugal, appropriate, historically accurate representation, I think, of Nantucketers. So I don't have any further comments than that. But thank you
Toby,
for
just
taking
to
the time today.
clarify something, Toby, on the aerial on the left. That whole new thing on the left, I guess that was Lloyd Arnold's property. Are those the solar panels we can see to the left?
Yes, you can, if Bruce were to do a panorama, he would see panels from where he was standing. I think he was on private property, so I don't want to speak. I'm just saying, you can see them from the water. You can see them down there, but they're obtuse views. And I think the array is very well designed to limit any negative impacts that it might have, potential negative impacts. I personally think solar panels are beautiful. They show a roof doing something. I'd also like to add that, asphalt roofs are not historic. And so I think it's very appropriate to have solar panels on a non-historic roof structure, roof surface. Very in line, but so we have 9 East Street and 11 East Street and 11 East Street does have solar panels on it as well.
I'm just wondering, from this picture, I can actually, some of these pictures aren't old enough to be able to see them, but on the left,
Well,
I
you
can
can see them.
those are them.
Yeah,
Okay.
so there's 2 there, and then there's 1 on the furthest western facing plane. It's kind of hard to see in this picture.
I do remember arguing with that. Okay, we might as well go on to the cottage. Very similar issues. This used to be just a garage, didn't it?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Really not sure.
Okay, and these face south also, correct?
Correct.
Or do they face into the lot?
They face south.
Okay. Okay, gray roof again?
Yeah, it's like a gray green kind of roof,
Yeah. They don't make that color anymore.
Oh, I
Bruce,
love that color.
I know. They come aqua now. Bruce, same comments?
Similar comments, and I didn't get a chance to comment on Tobias's comments that you guided him through at the end there, but
Bruce, I'm going to tell you,
there's no opposition.
point of order,
to solar
cut it out.
panels.
cut it
Oh.
out, Bruce. I did not guide him anywhere. I had my comments and I'm trying to get the minutes down where he's going. So stop those snide comments right now.
They're not snide, Linda. You're bullying us and we don't appreciate it.
No, you are making comments that are pejorative, that are inappropriate. I did not guide him anywhere. Toby's been doing this a long time. He's a big boy. He can do it himself.
Yes, thank you. We are not against, or correction, I am not against solar power. especially when it's placed in accordance with the current guidelines. And I just want to make that clear. The drawing PV3 shows where these black panels are going on a gray roof, covering almost all of the mass of that roof, which in my opinion makes it out of scale and inappropriate. We again have black solar panels on a gray roof. And the comments made by the HDC are essentially the same as they made on the main house. So our prior comments on the, what I guess you're calling the guest house, are the same. It's out of character for the neighborhood and surrounds, and even though, as was mentioned, there are rooftop solar panels in proximity to this property, which, as I said, should never have been approved. They should have been approved in accordance with the town's guidelines, which called for ground mounted, especially when there's sufficient property, ground area for the installation to be ground mounted, which is the preferred method according to the current town guidance. Whether anyone's personal opinion feels that's incorrect. There's no indication as to where the associated equipment is to be installed, whether that equipment location or an enclosure should be indicated. And
I'm gonna, just to clarify, Bruce, on the equipment will be placed inside. In case there was any concern about that. But I could put it on a pedestal where you want the ground array to be in the middle of everything so you can see it, if you'd like as well.
I'm sorry, what was your last comment, Toby?
I
Never
could,
mind.
I could put it on a pedestal as well, if you'd like.
When you say
Middle of the
pedestal,
yard.
are you talking about the panels or the equipment?
The equipment.
I see. I have
It's
no
inside, right?
preference. I have no
It's inside.
preference in designing these. My only comment was there's no indication on the drawings where it's going. So it raises that question.
Thank you.
My opinion is that both of these submissions should be revised and resubmitted so that they're in accordance with the current town of Nantucket guidelines for solar technology installation.
Tom, you agree with that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, just to clarify, I wrote with Dirk Rugabine, the current, older, obviously 20 years, solar guidelines.
Why do you
And they
say
are
20
being,
years?
let me finish, please. I let you finish. They're being revised. They're actually, I think Toby or Tim was at a meeting at the office, the building department last week, and I think they're regularly meeting with Steve Welch. They've talked to Lauren about revising these older solar guidelines because they actually don't track current technology at all, nor the way things have been approved or the way they'd like to see them approved. So things are being looked at now with a lot of stakeholders involved in the discussion. Val Oliver, I believe, is there also to have a conversation about these emerging sustainable technologies, because those things, when Dirk and I wrote them years ago, were like based on the burgeoning solar panel industry, which isn't anywhere near that now. So things are changing, including this ground array obsession. The problem with that is that green space is becoming very constricted, especially on some of these smaller lots. So they're having to discuss that part of it also, because as I said, some of the ground arrays that are on these larger lots eat up green space and are visible. So there's a lot of discussion around how to deal with the different colored panels versus the colors of the roofs. Now, there is a company that does skins. Toby can probably speak to that better than I can. That changes the colors of the panels with these skins, so they more reflect the color of the roof that they're on. I believe Ray Cole saw one of these. I think they did a test one, saw one of these and didn't like it at all. So there's that burgeoning part of the solar, because there's so many different colored roofs now and so many different colored ways of doing the panels. So that is under discussion. But I want to correct something. The guidelines do not say they have to be on the ground. Number one. Number two, it's a guideline depending on the setting, depending on the structure, depending on the direction, depending on this, depending on the roof planes, depending on the lower pitches, depending on whether it's an ancillary structure like a garage or a shed. It is not. Everything has to be on the ground as a guideline. It can be on the roof, given all these other variables on all these other types of properties and all these other types of structures. So it is not, oh my God, it has to be on the ground. It is not the guideline, it has to be on the ground. That is not how it reads, and that's not how we wrote it. I should know. So whether it's appropriate or inappropriate in old Madaket, whether they've been allowed on roofs right next to it, which is black panels or blue panels on a wood roof, facing the same direction as these, except for one, I believe, faces sideways on a much larger piece of property. Those all have to be taken into account individually, not blanket everything has to be on the ground in Madaket. That's not how this works, and that's not how the HDC works either. So whether they're on the roof or on the ground is going to have to be a discussion for the HDC itself. But I just wanted to correct that it's not everything has to be on the ground. That's not how it was written, and that's not how it's proposed. But each property is different. So if this was facing the harbor, the creeks, I'd have a much greater problem than I do with this on lower roof planes. Now, I don't know what the pitch is on this garage. I assume it's around a 7 or an 8 pitch, which is steeper than the 2 pitches that are on the main structure, which is somewhat blocked by this structure from the publicly traveled way. Not a driveway, not the creeks, but from, I guess that's Tennessee up there, but from up there, from F Street, from E Street itself. So that's my soapbox for today, but I have to clarify that it's not everybody has to be on the ground. It's not written that way, not going to be interpreted that way. Prefer, maybe, depending on where the house is, what the structure is, what direction it's facing, and how visible it is. But to be able to see solar panels obliquely, whatever, or in the middle of Tom Nevers or the middle of Pulpus or whatever, on Tristram's, there's nothing wrong with being able to see them. So that's my fundamental opinion on that, is that I don't care if I can see them or not, if they're appropriate to the roof plane, if they're appropriate to the setting. That's me. And that's my opinion. I don't represent anybody else, but that's my opinion. So I
Thank you for
put this
that.
all on the little sheet there that I have to put in for each one of these. I've already got them started. So at least I know I've done them.
Linda, thank you for that, I guess, correction. However, I did not say they had to be on the ground. What I said was the guidelines specifically say, and they're the current guidelines, whether they're going to be changed or not is irrelevant. These are the current guidelines. Applications of these systems as a ground array are encouraged. And it says the appropriateness of a photovoltaic or solar thermal system should be based on the historic character and architectural significance of the individual structure and its relation to surrounding. It is always preferable to use the least visible technology. And it further says it's important to minimize any adverse effects as well as to mitigate visual impact. Therefore, whenever possible, the least visible installation of ground arrays is preferred. It doesn't say it's mandated.
I'm all aware of that. In this particular case, they're going to be visible. They cannot be in the setback. They're going to have to go into the yard. They're going to have to be pulled away from the south side of the yard and probably the east side of the yard. And they're going to be visible. And they're going to take up whatever green space is on here, which may make them obliquely visible from the creeks. That's my problem with this particular location. If you're on the middle of Tom Nevers, or if you're out in the middle of where there's so much ground cover, it's ridiculous. But if you're out in the middle of Pulpus and you have a 5-acre piece of property, generally those guys are putting them on the ground because they got plenty of places to put them and you can't see them unless you airlift into the property. When you're on a tight situation like this, if you're going to put a ground array on this particular property with these particular structures, I won't even get into the rest of that comment, that statement from the guidelines, because it doesn't meet some of those either. Then I have a problem with this one going on the ground. That's my opinion on this one.
We understand that. Number one, there's plenty of room to install them and not run awry of the east setback or the south setback. And there's no way a ground array of any configuration on that lot would be visible from the creeks because of the existing vegetation between the rest of that property and the creeks, nor would it be visible from any other public way. And that could be easily seen by standing on East Street and looking at that area.
Have you seen, Bruce, just out of curiosity, have you seen a ground array on Nantucket yet?
Linda, yes, I have. We have quite a few in Madaket. And
I'll give you the addresses of the other two on big lots.
Let me answer your question. Yes, I have. We have a rather large array just on the other side of Long Pond. In addition to that, in my career as a construction coordinator for 30 years, I have installed acres upon acres of solar panels, both on roofs of buildings from San Diego to Maine, as well as ground arrays. And there are reasons that the ground arrays are preferred, not only from a visibility standpoint, but from maintenance, as these cells can be damaged. They have toxic elements in them that need to be detected before they leak out, especially here in Madaket, where they get covered with road dust from all of our unpaved roads, and the roof panels are difficult, if not impossible, to clean, where the ground arrays are easy to clean and maintain their cap factor and efficiencies, which is the intent.
Well, here's my problem with that statement. The one that was on the other side of the pond is visible. And if you're talking about visibility in Madaket, it's visible. And the other ones I've seen that are terrible are visible. Why would I want to see that instead of green space? That's my problem. And the technology has changed to the point of astronomical difference between the ones from 20 years ago when we wrote those legislation to now. So, and it's completely evolving all the time. I mean, and I was always concerned about the original panels having the toxic element. We've all known that they were toxic. You can't put them in a landfill because they are toxic. Now, whether they have eliminated that, I don't know. Toby can probably speak to that. But that was my concern about solar panels 20 years ago when we were putting them in, when they were first starting out with the old panels, which are different than the ones today.
Let's stick to the application at hand. We can have all kinds of discussions about green space in Madaket and trying to maintain it while approving swimming pools and approving tear downs and construction of huge mansions here.
That's not us. I'm not a pool
That's not
person.
relevant to this discussion.
I'm not a pool
What's
person.
relevant to this discussion are the current town guidelines and how they ought to be applied to this application and this application alone.
All right, I think we beat this to death.
Thank you.
Linda,
Tom? Anything else, Tom?
well, if any, just in general, in the old Madaket area, if there is any location on a southern exposure, preferably it should be on the ground with bushes blocking it either from the creek or from the road. And the second item would be if the only location is on the roof, that would be all right. But if there is ground cover that can be properly blocked by shrubbery, the ground mounted should be the initial location.
Okay. Saying it that concisely is a hell of a lot better. Okay. Toby, anything else? Out of morbid curiosity, Toby, the toxic part of this has always troubled me, always. Are these new panels less toxic than the ones from 20 years ago, which we couldn't go anywhere near a landfill on?
Well, they are significantly less heavy metals in these panels, and I'm talking minute, small amounts. But currently, they're fairly on par with this.
I have a flip phone, can't relate.
So, well, there are some heavy metals in the lithium ion batteries that everyday phones use, and there's similar heavy metals as there are in solar panels. And so, if you throw this in your well and drink it, or smash it up, throw it in your well and drink it, it's not good. But I will say the town, in coordination with the water company, for the large solar array that's in the process of being built there, took a solar panel, ground it up, submerged it in water, and then in a scientific manner carried out a number of tests to see whether or not the solar panels would impact the water quality. And after vigorous testing, the conclusion was drawn that there was not a leaching coming out of those materials.
Well, that's good, because they didn't know that 20 years ago. They knew they were a problem 20 years ago, because they couldn't put them anywhere when they took them off or they broke.
Yep.
Okay, now the whole array doesn't break on the ground or the roof. You just replace that panel, that one section.
Correct, yeah. Anyways, I'm running late for my next meeting, so I'll let you
Okay.
guys, thank you so much.
Well,
and
thanks for coming.
Are you going to Sconset Advisory? Oh, never mind.
I'm not, I'm just meeting with a client and I've just been texting them I'm running late.
Okay,
Disregard.
thanks.
Yeah, I need to run Sconset Advisory. Question.
all right, thanks for coming.
Before board members leave, schedule change. Any thoughts?
I think Bob said he's working from what, 9:30? Is that when he starts?
9:30 to 4, I think he mentioned.
Something like that? And that is
Yeah.
only on certain days of the week?
Okay. So let
But
me
I-
get the schedule from him. What works best for him? Are you guys flexible? Or are you guys?
Certain Tuesdays, obviously I can't because I
Well,
have CPC.
Yeah, Tuesday wouldn't be a good day for me either.
No,
Any other day of the week?
I'm all right Wednesdays, but we need to know how it fits in with your schedule. Does that Wednesdays work? He may be working Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So if you can
Okay.
find out from him what days, does anybody care if we move days and time? Bruce, Tom?
I
This is
don't,
Tom. Mondays and Fridays are a little difficult to me because I had a doctor's appointment this morning, as I emailed you. And then I
Yep,
had to
that's
run
right.
out.
Okay,
Okay, what about you, Bruce?
I don't have a problem being flexible. I might suggest to you some of the coordination issues we use, for example, with the Madaket Conservation Association and some of our other organizations here. There's an app, I guess it's called Doodle, where you can basically list Monday through Friday across the top and the hours at the bottom, going down the column on the left, and people can indicate what their availability is. And then when you get all of them, you could find out which are the most useful times.
okay.
And then we can-
I'll do that.
Yeah, we'll try to stay away from Mondays, I guess. If Bob is working Mondays and Tom has
Okay.
issues with Mondays, we can try to
I'll
stay
s-
away from Mondays.
I'll send a spreadsheet this week and you guys can fill in what works best and we can hopefully narrow something down.
So Friday's out for you, Tom, right? I don't like Fridays either. So I mean, we're
Yeah.
looking pretty much on Tuesday's not good for Esmeralda. We're really looking at Wednesdays and
Wednesday.
Thursdays.
Okay.
Now that Esmeralda doesn't have the HDC at 1 o'clock on Thursdays anymore.
Yeah, that works.
That works.
Okay,
I-
perfect. Thank you.
Esme, I have a question.
Sure.
We had a little bit of a cross up last week on a property being reviewed. Is it anticipated that these two applications will be discussed at the HDC meeting this week?
Probably
like it.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
So if you
I'll
can
get them. I've
attend,
already got the minutes started, so I've already got them up on my screen to just transpose everything over there. Because I looked at the agenda, Bruce, and if they move along, they will get to them.
Okay, so I guess I should sign into that. And Linda, you're going to distribute the notes to us prior to that, please?
I don't. Esmeralda can.
Esme, would
excuse
you-
me, what was that?
To distribute the notes from today's meeting.
Oh,
to us
once
prior
Linda
to the
sends them to me, I
HDC.
can do that.
Okay, thank you.
I already have them up on the screen.
Okay, thank you.
Okey dokey. So somebody want to make a motion to adjourn at 11:08?
I can make that motion, Tom.
Okay, Bruce, you second? Bruce?
Yes,
Okay. All those in favor? Bruce?
okay.
Tom?
Okay.
Okay, myself. Okay. All righty.